Welcome back to tonight's edition of Diamond Live. Now, the political atmosphere in the country is, steadily tightening as we edge closer to next year's election cycle, and politicians are beginning to openly declare their interest to participate in next year's elections. There is, alliances being formed, the emerging interest by young people to take part in next year's election seems very strong. Parliament, on the other end, is also another ballgame because it gets heated time and again as members of Parliament debate national policies on behalf of the people. Well, I wouldn't call him one controversial member of Parliament because, I think many call him as one interesting MP. In fact, Binwa Mpundu is Nkana Member of Parliament. He was suspended for what many would call using, I don't know what language that is, but he is joining us here on tonight's edition of Diamond Live. We talk many issues around governance, the voter registration process. We also touch on issues around the constitution amendment process, and we look at what he's been able to do in Nkana constituency as we head towards the election next year. Mr. Mpundu, thank you so much for making time to join us tonight.
Good evening, my dear brother. How are you doing?
Very well.
Thank you.
Chitundu chimulande chiba Mpundu kanshi. Chitundu shikanshi chimuwon from Parliament. People wonder how you get suspended for using language that, is it alarming? I'd like to put it that way.
Well, I am Bemba. My mother is from Chembe. My father is from Chienge, Monunga there. So I speak the Bemba language. And I'm proud of my language. And I can use my language anywhere and anyhow. Parliament is not an exception to the usage of any other language. Oh, by the way, there seems to be a misconception by a number of people to suggest that you can't use local languages in Parliament. Mm. There is nowhere in the rules of Parliament where the usage of other languages is forbidden, except there is a golden rule or the general rule that when you use any other word aside English in Parliament, you must translate it. Now, the Bemba language has got adages or proverbs, has got sayings or colloquials, okay, which in other languages may sound like insulting or disrespectful or vulgar. But in the Bemba language, they are normal. As an example, when you say in Bemba, teka matako panshi, you're basically telling somebody, relax or calm down. Now, because you use amatako, in other language, it will sound like you are insulting, okay? Just like if you went to our other friends in other areas in the Eastern, they'll say kunyenga weni. That word in Bemba would be a very big insult. Our friends in Tonga will say jigala. In our language, that sounds very insulting. Now, you will not stop your other friends who speak that language from using their language because it sounds uncomfortable to you. And this is the bone of contention. The bone of contention is that you tell somebody, you take a punch, and they feel like you've insulted them. You haven't insulted them, okay? Now, other people that are uncomfortable with that would want to create a general rule that you can't use that language, meaning you are precluding somebody or stopping somebody from using their own language. Mm. So I have found myself wanting for the usage of some of those, words or sentiments. As an example, I have told somebody Udumukulusana. I never knew that Udumukulusana would amount to a crime or to vulgar language. I have taught somebody Ichimutwe. Where we grew up, so you and me, Ichimutwe is a general term. In fact, we joke about it, every other day. Today, I think if you called anybody, now I think people are understanding that it actually can be used very loosely and does not amount to any insult.
This should be a lesson for you to tone down in language, because, I mean, the people of Nkana are unrepresented for a good 30 days.
When you say it's a lesson to tone down, I think it's a wrong statement to make, or a wrong call to make. Tone down from what? You are allowing a grouping of people to dictate how we should manage our lives, or how our basically you are agreeing that you, who is Bemba, must recraft your language. You must be stopped from using statements or sentences that otherwise are okay in your language. Is that what you are agreeing with?
Because I'm just wondering how you will operate in the House when you go back and continue in this same trajectory. I mean, another suspension, and then what?
You remember that last Friday the Speaker used a statement in Lozi at Honorable Kapyanga, which statement actually translated in English meant Kapyanga, doesn't think. He's not normal. That's what she said, actually. How is that different from what some of us are saying in Parliament? There are a lot of times when our friends on the right side of the Speaker have used worse words. We've had records where, as an example, Jack Mwimbu would say, idiot, foolish, It's on record where, Honorable Gary Nkombo actually used the insulting word, the Bemba insulting word in Parliament, including the President himself at a rally at some point, actually used an insulting word. So there is a growing trend by a lot of people in society now to want to use any little perceived mistake of the young people to use it as a way of, kicking out young people from the equation of leadership. Say, the young people, behave in this manner. They forget that the old guns have actually done worse. Now, that is not in any way suggesting that we must be disrespectful, or we must use unpalatable language. But the question is, what is palatable, what is accepted, what is not accepted? Is it the usage of the Bemba language that people are not comfortable with, or is the actual words that are used? Because if you say, "Ya take a punch," it will never be an insult, whether you like it or not. Whether it's today, tomorrow, in future, or yesterday, it will never be an insult. So we must agree, therefore, that maybe we should completely stop the usage of any other language, in which case the Speaker must be the first. Because just last Friday, she used a Lozi statement against Honorable Kapyanga, which statement translated meant Kapyanga Tabakwatamano is sick.
What does this then generally mean about expression in Parliament? Because I'm looking at the future of your future in the House, because it seems this, the use of words seems to be coming down, biting hard at you. I mean, you, yes, cite many other members of Parliament, but it seems quite an issue on your end. So I'm just thinking, how then do you continue your expression? I mean, you want to express yourself in local language. Will that continue, or are you thinking at restructuring how you debate in the House, for the sake of the people of Nkana? Because as it is now, there is no representation of the people of Nkana.
The sad part is that we just have allowed people who are mischievous to dictate the order of, things. One thing that is very clear, Cheswa, is that Parliament is not a church. In fact, our Parliament is so gagged that even the freedom we talk about, the freedom of speech, is not there. In fact, the freedom of speech in Parliament is just one-sided. We have had instances in Parliament where a member of Parliament is chased out for simply laughing. Honorable Chonde of Milenge was sent out for simply laughing. Imagine being sent out for 7 days for simply turning my head away from the Speaker when she was talking to me. She found it disrespectful that I turned my head to look on the other side from her. And why I turned was not deliberate. It's because my other colleague was sitting on my left, signaled that wanted to whisper something to me.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we as a society, we have allowed certain individuals to dictate, things that ordinarily don't even, make sense. Parliaments everywhere. I was just watching a clip from Namibia. Parliaments everywhere. People are allowed to express themselves so freely. In fact, even if the common, accepted language is English, as the South Africans, they actually are allowed to even use their own local languages, except they may be required to translate. Why should it be okay for the speaker, as an example, to use other languages, to suggest, things that actually are not okay? As an example, at another member of parliament suggesting he is sick upstairs. Okay, the mind is not functioning okay. Why should it be okay for the speaker to say that? And it's not okay for Bino to say sit down or relax.
Let's touch on other issues of national importance. Let's talk about issues around the Constitution. I mean, just yesterday, of course, the amendments closed. Submissions were being made at the technical committee stage there. What has been your general conclusion of this process? Quite many stakeholders have made submissions towards the technical committee. What are you summing up out of this process?
Deceptive crookedness of the highest order by the UPND. The Constitution is not any other piece of law that you can change at will. Remember, the genesis of this Constitution amendment process was that the UPND dreamt, and the president came and announced that we have agreed to amend the Constitution. He agreed with who? Only God knows. The general rule to the amending the Constitution is that there must be consensus, national consensus. In fact, the proposal to amend the Constitution and whatever the clauses that ought to be amended must come from the people. All right? The president is empowered by the Inquiries Act to then appoint a committee that will now go to the people, receive submission, put those submissions together into a draft. The opposite is what the UPND have tried to do or are doing as it is. They thought, they dreamt, came up with frivolous, propositions that they coined up into what they call the Bill 7, pushed that agenda into Parliament, throwing the people away. And when they were stopped by the Constitutional Court process, then they want to pretend they are now doing the right thing. The president then constitutes a technical committee, which is not so technical, because I can challenge anyone, if you count all those who are in that committee, are they even technically competent in constitutional matters? No. What it means by technical committee on constitutional matters, it means this is a technical committee of competent people vested with the law in as far as constitutional matters are concerned. Now, that's a discussion for another day. But the deal breaker for a technical committee, 1, 2, 3 out of 15.
Well, shouldn't that be enough?
No, it's a technical committee. It's a team of technical people vested with the Constitution, constitutional matters. Now, that's why I've said, let's do away with the composition of the team. Now, the deal breaker for a constitutional or technical committee looking at constitutional matters is the job you give them by way of terms of reference. Because the terms of reference is what dictates to the committee what they expected to do. If you've gone through the terms of reference given to this committee, from 1 up to the end, they were basically dictated, go to the people and ask them what they feel about delimitation, ask them what they feel about inclusion of youth, inclusion of women, inclusion of the disabled, ask them what they feel about. So exactly what was in Bill 7 is what they now mandated the technical committee to go and present to the people and get submissions around. I doubt there will be any different document that will be produced by the technical committee other than what was, in Bill 7. Oh, by the way, deception is what the UPND have done, because when the Constitutional Committee ruled that they were offside, they did not withdraw the Bill 7 from Parliament. They simply deferred it. Deferring an item from Parliament or a bill from Parliament does not mean you have withdrawn it. It's very active before, parliamentary proceedings. So you have a bill that is very much in Parliament, but then you go out there pretending you have gone to get submissions from the people. That's deception. That's hypocrisy. Okay? So, I don't see anything different that will come out of the technical committee other than what has been given to them by way of the terms of reference. I, of course, from my head, I know that there will be some new additions. As an example, the proposal that was made by Kavindere.
I was going to ask you about that, on the fact that it seems a very interesting submission that there should be a 7-year term of president.
Why would you subject the people of Zambia to 7 years of mediocrity, as the case is now? This is the first time.
His argument is that instead of a president wanting to get into another term, then they must just have 7-year once-off term, meaning that in 7 years, a presidential candidate must deliver within the 7 years.
It's the highest level of absurdity to suggest that you prolong one term so that then you avoid them going for 2 terms. There's no 2 term for a president. He's only guaranteed of 1 term when he's voted into office. The next 5 years is not guaranteed. It's up to the people. The reason why we give a smaller term, the Americans will give themselves 4 years, is such that if you have an incompetent leadership, you can at least deal with them for 4 years. Imagine you have a lunatic for 7 years. What would become of the country? That is why there is always the edge to always restrict.
Well, the argument is that it's a once-off and then they're not coming back.
No, even if it's one-off, my dear brother,
but the same lunatic that you say can also, through means, come back.
Imagine
2 terms.
Imagine dealing with a dictator. Imagine dealing with a lunatic or an incompetent president for 7 years. That's the argument here. You cannot think like that. Our friends who are more advanced than us thinks of lessening the term so that peradventure you have somebody who is inept. You can at least endure 4 years or lesser. You cannot be proposing, honestly speaking, for 7 years. That's absurdity.
What would be your role? I mean, these submissions have been made. What are you looking at as Member of Parliament from your end?
Members of Parliament have the mandate of making the law, including the same constitution amendment. It is within, our responsibility or duty. But you see, to amend the constitution is not entirely the work of the members of Parliament. It's the work and the responsibility and duty of the entire citizenry, which is why any government worth any semblance of leadership must ensure that all the citizens are brought on board when it comes to amending the constitution. Here, you are aware of the so many stakeholders who have rejected this proposition or this attempt. Just today, I have been reading, letters written by a number of chiefdoms in Luapula. Mwatakazembe, including all the chiefdoms under him, have rejected this. I've seen Chief Mabumba, Chief Sokonto, and others. So 3/4 of the chiefs in Luapula have rejected, or have actually, echoed to government that they must stop this hasty, proposition or attempt to amend the constitution. The Oasis Forum have also said no. LAS has said no. NGOCC has said no. A number of church
But these
mother
organizations that you mentioned, Honorable, were making submissions at the Mulungushi International Conference Center. I mean, you're talking traditional leaders, they were making submissions at the conference center. Civil society, they were making submissions. So when you say have rejected, but we see organizations going to make submissions, perhaps that is what democracy should be like.
So when you speak about people's representations, perhaps you agree with me.
I mean, Laz was making submissions at Mulungushi. So when you say that they have rejected, then...
I think that we have, between you and me and the public, we have all seen, official correspondence by Laz. We've seen official correspondences by the NGOCC. We've seen official correspondence by, the Oasis Forum, the Council of Bishops, the Catholic bishops, the traditional leaders that I've cited, plus many others. We've seen official communication. As to who was represented at Mulungushi is another, item that can be debated. But we have seen, these communications officially from these named groupings. Now, when we talk about the people of Zambia, it is not possible that you can summon all the people of Zambia to have an input to a document like this. The people of Zambia are represented through these interest groups. That is why when you see Laz writing, the lawyers and others are represented. When you see the church writing, especially the Council of Bishops, the Catholic bishops, that's that's a huge grouping of people we are talking about. When you see traditional leaders, they represent their people. The NGOCC, they are representing their women. Now imagine a constitution making process that seeks to include women, and the very women that are being considered are saying, no, we don't want this. It doesn't sit well with us. So who are you representing? Because in essence, when you are amending the law, you are amending it for the people. But if the people you are amending the law for are saying or questioning, legitimacy of your actions, then who are you amending the law for?
Let us touch on voter registration. This is another issue, of course, around electoral process, governance, and so on. What also are you saying is your sum up of the registration process? Of course, it ended. Then, we saw an extension there. How do you describe the process thus far?
Again, flawed and mischievous. As always, the Electoral Commission of Zambia have yet again proved to be mischievous. You attempt or you embark on an exercise, a very important exercise to the election, because there cannot be an election without voters. And voters comes from, number one, getting NRCs, and then secondly, getting, voter registration cards. So how do you then want to hold an election when you haven't given an opportunity for the citizens to get the NRC, or rather the voters' cards? Now, the process of voter registration is such that you must first of all invest money into, publicity. You must invest money into preparing the materials needed for officers that are going to go and carry on the exercise. We have heard reports, you are aware of reports where in some centers, because of load shedding, the officers would go for work and they're not doing anything. Okay? You have heard the overall outcry of the lack of publicity around this issue. There are so many people who are not even aware that there's this exercise going on. And then you only give 1 month to an exercise that you envision to capture 3 million people. The same is what happened at the mobile NRC registration exercise. You'll have a government that prioritizes only a region. You are aware, I asked this matter to Honorable Jack Mwimbu, who actually justified why they did that. They had allowed the Northwestern, Western and Southern province to conduct the mobile NRC exercise from 2022 into 2025. Meanwhile, the other areas were only given 3 months. And in those 3 months, you would find first of all, delayed by 2 weeks because there is no material. And when you go to the centers, it's either they have no camera, they have no cards. Some traditional leaders, as an example in Luapula, called out to government that there are so many people who are of age and should be participating in, getting these NRCs, but you've only given us a very few, NRC cards. So you can clearly see that when we speak about rigging an election, it is not on the actual day of election that people rig. It's a process. You begin to manipulate, the exercise of giving people NRC. You also go to manipulate the voter registration exercise. That is how you rig an election. And so would it be wrong if we suggested that the ECZ are skillfully trying to manipulate the election of 2026?
So you're already suggesting that this 2026 election already is not free and fair?
Well, how is it free and fair when you disenfranchise people? Because everyone who is of age would like to participate. There are so many people who are crying out that they want to be given an opportunity to participate in the next election, but you deliberately, because of a flawed process or a skilled process to attain or achieve your desired goals, you stop people from getting those, important documents. Would it be wrong to suggest or to conclude that this is a scheme by those, in charge of ECZ to manipulate the election?
2026 is just around the corner, Honorable Bondo. And people are looking at a formidable opposition that could take on the UPND government. What's been your thoughts around a united opposition? Do we have it in Zambia?
First of all, there's a very formidable opposition in Zambia today. Contrary to assertions being made out there that the opposition is not strong enough, the situation today can only be compared to what happened in the 1991 elections. Remember, in 1991, there was only, prior to 1991 election, there was only one, UNIP, and no any other political party. But the real opposition were the Zambian people then who had actually made a decision to walk away from UNIP. All that was needed was to allow for multipartism to return, and so they can then choose a political grouping to then jump on. The case is the same now. The Zambian people are tired of the UPN. They are tired of the lies. They are tired of the deception. They are tired of sleeping in the darkness. They are tired of the escalating prices of commodities. They are tired of, struggling to find money for fuel and then embarking on another journey to go and look for where the fuel is available. They are tired of now the pronounced return of Kadarism. And they've made a decision that UPND is not supposed to be given another mandate. Now, as to where